Thank you so much for joining us for hearing about FinTech Policy 2022. Allow me to introduce myself once again. My name is Kim Kyung-mi. I am the MC for this program. Now, hearing about FinTech Policy 22 has been prepared to collect opinions from the industry as well as to share the direction of the policy in year 2022. So we have experts from policy supervisory support and investment fields with regards to fintech who will address your questions. We will have a Q&A session right after we listen to the presentation. I know that many of you have looked forward to this program. And we have a distinguished speaker who prepared a presentation for the advancement of fintech industry. Thank you very much. And I also appreciate our participants both online and offline. Now let's begin hearing about FinTech Policy 2022. Now let's first hear a presentation about Digital Finance Innovation Policy. Mr. Park Ju-young, Manager of Financial Innovation Division at FSC, will talk about the future of digital finance innovation.
Please welcome Chief Lee Dong-yup with a big hand. First of all, we have just kicked off the 3-day Korea FinTech Week 2022, and as our first session, we are holding the hearing about FinTech Policy 2022. So from today's afternoon until tomorrow's morning, we're going to have seminars, and there will be a networking and meetups for attracting investments. And I believe that today's session will serve as the basis for other discussions to follow, as we will focus on the fintech policy. So my presentation today will cover first about the changing environment of finance in the digital era. I'm also going to share with you briefly the progress to date by the government. Last but not least, I will share with you our future plans for this year as well as next year and beyond. First of all, finance in the digital era. Under the COVID-19 pandemic, the biggest change in the environment was based on data and also acceleration of digital transformation. And I'm sure that all our participants joining us today on site are fully aware of such changes. So I'm going to be very, very brief on this slide. So there is the regularization of the fourth industrial revolution era and acceleration of digital transformation I just talked about. So these are some of the changes that are brought about these days. So if you look at the impact of these changes, you can see that because of this data-based digitalization, the forms of services being delivered are also changing. So in this rapidly changing environment, there is an increasing use of online platforms, and also there is a growing service in terms of total service. Now let me share with you some of the initiatives taken by the government to date. It's been about 10 years since we first introduced the concept of fintech, and if you look at its chronology, there is the beginning phase, the formative period, the growth period, as well as scale-up and advancement period. Lots of things have been done over the years, and people involved with the fintech sector may find the changes a bit slow. relatively slow, but I believe that all of these milestones are very important. And if you look at the scale-up and advancement period, recently we adopted Financial Regulatory Sandbox, implemented My Data, and we also implemented open banking. So I'm going to elaborate more on the initiatives led by the government in this period. First is regarding the implementation of the regulatory sandbox. I believe that it is a very effective mechanism or policy. When we are uncertain about the violation of regulations, we can temporarily apply regulatory sandbox. And from the policymaker's perspective, we can actually test the effectiveness of the policy in advance. And as for the businesses, they can also test their services and products in advance. So it was very effective, and I believe that we have to make better use of this regulatory sandbox going forward. Now, let me share with you some achievements made. We have up until now designated 224 cases of innovative financial services, and 138 services were launched in the market. And I'd like to give you some major examples. So there is the decimal unit investment service for overseas stocks, which was recently launched, and also online loan comparison and recruitment platform. And of course, it's not a real market, a real product, but there are also a lot of test services that are being tested. For example, when we recruit for insurance, we can make better use of mobile. So lots of innovative attempts are being made. And that is thanks to the regulatory sandbox. Second, I would like to talk about the My Data industry. So it is to actually provide tailored services to consumers by collecting credit information scattered across each institutions. So after the launch of the My Data industry mechanism or policy, I'm sure that you've had an experience personally. For example, you may have a bank in different account in different banks, and also you may use different credit cards, but you can have access to all of this information through one-stop service. So the goal is to provide tailored services to customers, and the basis for that was the My Data industry. If you look at the subscribers for My Data, it reaches 45 million, and the number of users per day is about 500 million. So this is to provide tailored service through big data, and it is also to tear down the barrier for the financial services, so make the entry barrier lower for financial services, and also we can allow the management of information through safe institutions. Now I'd like to talk about the untagged telecommunicating work environment that the government has established. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we worked to create an environment and come up with regulatory system to allow everyone to ensure work continuity. For example, we made network separation an exception when telecommuting due to pandemic, and also apply security measures like virtual private network. So we tried very hard to deregulate some measures during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, I would like to talk about open banking. With the implementation of open banking, I'm sure that you've benefited from the service. So this is to allow consumers to use only one single application to gain access to account information and card information of various banks, or make payment and remittances. So as for fintech companies, they don't have to make individual partnerships. So they can have access to all financial institutions, so they can actually save money. And financial consumers can use a one-stop service, so that adds convenience. As for myself, I use My Data and open banking service as well. And in the past, I had to access one application and then leave that application to go to another application of a financial institution. But nowadays, with only one single application, I can have access to all my assets, and I can also do all the transactions in that one single application. So my data and open banking, with their implementation, they've indeed made a lot of services available, increasing convenience of the consumers. And as for fintech firms or fintech companies, they could also provide unique differentiated services. Let's look at some of the achievements of open banking. So, about 127 institutions, including banks, fintech companies, securities, and card companies, are using it. Subscribers reach 45 million. So, we see that there is a growing development of open banking services. So, one major example is the one-stop banking, but there is the domestic bookkeeping management and also easy payment and Dutch payment services that are being developed. So we believe that there will be many interesting new business models that will be available to the market. Now, from now on, I would like to focus my presentation on the future plans. So amidst the rapidly changing financial environment that I just talked about. So fintech and financial firms are actually collaborating on the payment network, and at the same time they are competing soundly. So we try to create that kind of environment for these players. And during the opening ceremony in the morning, somebody said that finance is subject to regulations, and regulations are there for a reason, to protect consumers and to promote soundness of the financial sector. But deregulation, therefore, is not simple. However, if you look at the policies led by the government, we are going to base ourselves on these policies to further improve the regulatory environment. So we try to improve the effectiveness of financial regulatory sandbox, and we are trying to promote and gain credibility using AI in the finance sector, improve cloud and network separation regulations, and expand open banking service and strengthen security and prepare regulatory system for digital assets. So let me elaborate on one by one. Regarding improving the effectiveness of financial regulatory sandbox, as I said before, it is indeed driving innovation in the finance sector, but recently there has been a decrease in the number of innovative financial service designation. But that is not only the case of Korea. If you look at the UK, Australia, or other countries with the same policy, we see a decreasing number of designation. So there is a burst of demand in the past, but the demand has sort of dwindled these days. That could be the reason. Even though there may be areas that lack a demand, we believe that there could be some institutional improvements made. That is why we are continuing to identify the areas for improvement. For example, we have to actually make sure that the screening system is improved and enhanced. So we actually set up a private committee, a chairman position.
And as Chairman Kim said in his welcoming remarks, we will create a group of experts and make sure that they support some specific business from the beginning to the end, and also clarifying what consumer convenience is very important because it serves as a key ground for regulatory exceptions. Now, there have been many requests with regards to the safety of the institutions as well as predictability. So, for example, we want to alleviate uncertainties coming from maturity. So, exceptions are applied for a period of 2 to 3 years, but companies are curious as to what will happen after that exception measure is terminated. So, we want to determine and notify the process after termination of regulatory exception in advance to allow the market to make preparations sufficiently and build a prior response system against risk of business suspension. And we also have to reform the support system. So we would introduce what we call a supervisor designation system, where these group of experts or supervisors would be in charge of providing related services to some businesses. And we would provide a platform that supports constant data analysis so as to help companies test the feasibility of their ideas. And we would also have to invigorate the use of AI in the financial sector and secure credibility in terms of using AI. Financial circumstances and environment is changing, and therefore AI is very important. Some people say, and data is very important as well. And people say that data is like oil in the financial sector. There's no doubt about that. In terms of my data and open banking, they're all related to this issue of data. And innovation in the production of the financial sector is possible only when we can collect quality data. So we will make related efforts to that end. So for example, we will create an AI data library that allows the reuse of data through regulatory sandbox. And securing data involves a lot of money, so we are seeking to create a joint big data among the players in the financial sector so as to secure quality data. And of course, we will have to reorganize the related systems and institutions. We do have a related guideline in place already, but we want to clarify that guideline and simplify it more and also rationalize the existing regulations as well. So as I said before, we do have a guideline available, but in order to apply AI in practice, that still remains unclear, even with the guideline. So there are these 5 major services like credit assessment and credit review, robot advisor, chatbot, customized recommendation, and abnormal transaction detection. And for these 5 major services, we will provide guidelines for using AI, using related cases and best practices. And to create an environment where AI is trusted, we will create a financial AI testbed and also create an AI-based credit rating model verification system, financial sector AI security verification system, and also create an effective monitoring system using AI. So we will take various measures to build an environment where people can have confidence in terms of using AI, and our measures will be done in a comprehensive manner. And for fintech companies, we want them to make sure that they face no trouble in terms of their development activities. So we are thinking about improving cloud and network separation regulations. So today, the regulations are that the cloud usage is allowed depending on the level of significance of a certain task. But there are some processes that are redundant or very similar, so we would modify them. And also, because the cloud service providers have also undergone change in terms of their forms, we are trying to reorganize and reform the related regulations as well. And the FSI would be in charge of the evaluation of CSP, and financial companies can make use of those evaluation outcomes. Now, with regards to network separation, we will apply exceptions in case it is related to the development server or test server, or when a certain task is irrelevant from customer or financial transaction information. So we will try to raise convenience for users, and we will push forward a phased alleviation of network separation regulations going forward. Now, going into open banking, we will expand the scope of companies that can participate in open banking. And also security is very important, so we will strengthen security. With regards to expanding the scope of companies that can participate in open banking, we will include insurance companies and hire purchase financial companies in December this year. And with regards to security issues, let's say that someone signs up for a zero contact open banking, then that person would be limited to remitting funds for 3 days. And now going into the digital asset market. So we've been trying to provide regulatory system that fits the situation of Korea, benchmarking other cases in overseas. And as part of that effort, we've launched the Digital Asset Private-Public Joint Task Force, and we're pushing forward to legislate the Basic Act on Digital Asset. And through this task force, we're trying to deal with various issues in cooperation with related institutions like the Ministry of Law and so forth. That concludes my presentation. I've just talked about the policies that we've implemented so far and our future plans going forward. We do need a comprehensive approach. AI and data collection, as well as easing regulations on cloud usage and network separation are all required for fintech companies to demonstrate and realize their innovative ideas. And that also includes solidifying or enhancing our regulatory sandbox scheme. So we will take this comprehensive approach to help fintech companies to not lose their innovative ideas, but to commercialize them as much as possible. That's the kind of policy environment we're thinking about. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Lee. Thank you so much for your detailed explanation. Finance in the digital era was part of your presentation. You also talked about the policies that have been implemented so far, as well as visions going forward. I think we can definitely look forward to the advancement of the fintech industry. Now, this is the hearing about Fintech Policy 2022 of the Korea Fintech Week 2022. We have audiences online as well. And I know that all of you have been waiting for this very moment. Now, we're going to invite a panel of experts in the areas of policy, supervisory, support, and investment, and have a Q&A session. Through our official website, we actually collected questions in advance. You are able to leave your own questions and comments with regards to fintech prior to this event. And thank you for your participation. So let's address those questions and comments at this time. And we received many similar and overlapping questions, so we took those questions all together and divided them into different categories. Now, it looks like the stage is all set, so let's invite the panels onto the stage.
네. 네, 김영태 디지털 금융 혁신국장.
Mr. Kim Yong-tae, Director General of Digital Finance Innovation Department and Financial Supervisory Service, and Mr. Lee Dong-hyuk, our presenter, Mr. Hwang In-duk, Head of Business Planning Division at Fintech Center Korea, and Mr. No Hae-sung, Head of Innovative Investment Department at K Growth. So we've once again categorized our questions. I'm going to ask those questions and the panels will answer them. Now allow me to introduce them to you one by one. Mr. Lee Dong-hyuk from the FSC, who was our presenter, will address policy questions. And for our supervisory and regulation question, Mr. Kim Yong-tae from the Financial Supervisory Service will answer them. Now, we also have Mr. Hwang In-duk from the Fintech Center Korea, who is supporting fintech businesses. And for growth, we need innovation. Mr. No Hae-sung, Head of Innovative Investment Department at K Growth, is here joining us. We do have limited time, so let's go into the first question related to policy.
제가
I'm going to read out to you the question. First question about policy. With strengthened law enforcement regarding consent to collect personal information, use of big data has become more difficult, which is restraining proposal of new business model. Is there any policy alternative or support to address this? So in 2022, Credit Information Act was revised and we adopted the concept of pseudonym information. So we have actually defined the scope of using and providing pseudonym information. So we managed to address the uncertainties of data use, but to prepare measures for post-control and safety measures, for example, preventing re-identification of pseudonym information and also separate management of additional information, we have made supplementary measures. But I think that regarding this question, the person said that there is an increase or strengthened law enforcement regarding consent to collect personal information. But actually, there has not been change in the contents regarding this item or matter in the Credit Information Act. So if you have additional questions, maybe we can respond to address that. And if you can actually share with us more specific aspects about your question, we'll be able to share with you some specific information, taking into consideration the policies that have been implemented to date. And we did have a lot of public hearings with the fintech companies, and just yesterday, actually at FSC, as part of our meeting, actually we had a meeting with the fintech firms to listen to their voices. So we will continue to organize these types of meetings going forward to address your requirements and concerns. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that answer. Now next is a question about supervision.
네, 감독 관련한 질문은요. 자, 감독.
Now, from the viewpoint of the supervisory authority, do you witness any major changes in fintech trends recently? If so, how will the FSS change accordingly? Mr. Kim, can you answer that? Hello, my name is Kim Yong-tae from FSS. Yes, the fintech trends are changing very much. So payment and remittances companies have entered the fintech area back in 2013, and the FSS has responded to those changes. And 8 years have passed, and today, like intermediary services of these products or insurtech and shorttech, all these new trends have come into place, and robot advisors and AI data companies are now growing. Those are some of the biggest trends. From my personal point of view, when it comes to the digitalization of fintech, automation and zero contact are the two key words. And the growth of fintech will be spurred based on those two key words. Not just the FSS, but international organizations like BIS are paying attention to the following. not legacy financial companies, but these so-called big tech companies. They're called GAPA, right? Or we call it Mekato here in Korea. But these big tech companies actually occupy more than 10% of the share in terms of sales in the financial sector. And so, you know the fintech DNA, right? Data, network, and activities. And through the DNA, these big tech companies are coming into the financial sector. So the financial authorities and the supervisory authorities like us especially would have to respond to this matter. So we're listening to the voices of the players and we're making necessary preparations. And when it comes to reducing the cost of intermediation and production, these big tech companies are actually playing a positive part, so that's good. Now, not so long ago, big tech companies conducted what is called a customized ad service online, and we decided that these are not an ad activity, but a mediation activity. So we asked them to suspend these service, and we're trying to discuss what to do going forward. So these are some of the changes that the FSS is going through. So FSC and FSS together are working to tackle these issues by using regulatory sandbox, for example, and we're also trying to come up with some mid to long-term policies as well. Thank you very much for the answer.
으로 넘어가.
Next question is about investment. So have there been changes in investment policy of financial institutions with regards to the Online Investment Linked Financial Business Law, or OILFBL? So I would refer to it as OFBL. I think that there is a lot of opinion about the OFBL in the market. And we at K Growth is an investment company, so we want to focus my remarks on the investment. So overall in the market, investment reviews have been conducted mainly on companies that meet the purpose of the OFBL and the direction of policies, such as activating mid-interest loans. And I think there is not much change in terms of the direction. So it's been 3 years since the system was implemented, and investment in personal credit loans and real estate loans has been somewhat active in the market, and the market has been formed around leading companies. So the FinTech Innovation Fund, which is operated by us, K Growth, is more interested actually in creative and innovative businesses that can help the real economy, such as supporting the liquidity of SMEs. And we have actually invested indeed in P2P companies that provide account receivables liquidity and car payment pre-settlement services. And not only that, the individual financial institutions may be in a different position. So individual financial institutions will be able to selectively cooperate with various online investment financial businesses in the areas of personal loans, real estate loans, and supply chain loans for strategic synergy with existing businesses. Thank you very much.
Now, the last category, a question about support. Mr. Hwang, I think you could answer this. What is the most necessary for fintech to grow? What are the future growth prospects? So from the viewpoint of fintech companies, compared to existing financial services, the speed at which people are using this or the cost that goes into using these services are much more innovative. So consumers are very much and it's very important that you identify services that can satisfy customers. And fintech actually belongs to the financial industry. And we said that financial industries is a regulation industry. So I think government's regulatory policies, as well as policies to support fintechs, are very important. we would have to consider those two. So, for example, it would be important to follow the government's policy stance regarding digital finance, regulatory sandboxes, platform, and so on, and develop the business accordingly. And fintech companies want to grow. And at the beginning, they would use the so-called family money and investments, but they actually are drained very quickly. So we need to invigorate investment, or else the fintech companies will be driven to the death valley. So I hope that fintech companies and their startups would be able to grow even further, and thus we need invigoration of investment. Now, you asked about the growth prospect. Now, looking at the growth outlook as of June 2022, there are 1,168 unicorn companies around the world, and among them, 244 companies are fintech, which accounts for 21%, the largest portion. So we could say that the growth outlook is very bright, even for Korea, but we could divide the fintech sector into B2C and B2B. And when comparing those two, the B2C financial services actually face more competition. So B2B companies who serve general companies and financial companies by developing related technologies are probably going to grow further in a relative sense. I see. So the growth of B2B will be higher than B2C.
Now, coming back to the questions regarding policy, I would like to ask two questions. So related to the trial operation of online platform financial product brokerage, so instead of going for a comparison and recommendation of insurance products on the platform, is it possible to have a service model that connects operators after analyzing the products held by existing customers? And the second question is, when comparing recommending insurance products on the platform and then connecting with operators, is it possible to connect to GA right away and not to the insurance operator? So recently, there was the second meeting of financial innovation, regulatory innovation, and FSC, and it was regarding supporting the insurance operators in terms of their platform business, and also to handle the insurance products on the platform. And there were regulatory meeting regarding this topic. So I think that question is related with that topic. But not only for insurance, but it also goes the same for all the products that are sold. Actually, when you're selling a financial product, it's good if it's sold well, but we say it's really an unstable sale, meaning that sometimes they fail to explain thoroughly about the product itself and thoroughly inform the customer about the risk that such financial products hold. So if that happens, then from the consumer's perspective, they might be impacted, and they might have impact from negative impact. And as for insurance, half of that is there are lots of complaints about the consumers about not being informed thoroughly about their product before the insurance product was sold. So of course, a lot of people may think that, or the fintech companies may think that there are so many regulations on fintech companies, but we have to really delve deeper into each and every regulation and make regulations as specific as possible. So when a platform actually handles insurance products, to what extent can the platform handle these products is an important thing, because platform is a contact-free mechanism. So that's where the problem statement comes from and the issue arises from. So I think that in the question it said there was a mention about connecting operators after analyzing products held by existing customers, but that is very difficult to determine because, of course, analyzing the products of existing customers, if you want to do that, you can actually do that based on the insurance sign-up information. That could be possible. And there are lots of services that are free of charge. For example, if you key in your personal information, then you can have an analysis about your insurance products. So analysis is one thing, but connecting to the operators and what is that relationship with the sales, that is the question. So to what extent should we intervene? That is not really certain from the question that's asked. So I cannot give you a clear answer. But when you sell a product, for example, we can pay fees based on the sales outcome. There are lots of things to consider. So the model of connecting to the operators, I think that this issue needs more information about the specific model that you are considering and thinking about. And after recommending and comparing, we have to connect to operators. Of course, we can connect you to connect consumers to the insurance operators. We can identify good insurance products and make recommendations. But is it possible to connect to GAs? That's the gist of the question. And as I mentioned earlier on, after the regulatory innovation meeting, we are thinking internally, but also together with the fintech firms and also the insurance operators as to how to better improve this measure. And I think that regarding this matter, we will be able to get back to you with our review results. I believe that it was not such a clear answer, and I'd like to apologize for that. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Now let's go into supervision. So that would be FSS. Financial services are rapidly moving to the mobile environment. What problems are arising as a result, and what are the ways to minimize them? Okay, I will give you my answer. Smartphone penetration is the highest in Korea among all other countries in the world. So in other words, we have the most number of people with mobile phones. Second is Israel. And after everything has moved into the mobile channel, yes, we've seen many problems arising, and we expect that in the future, these financial services are going to move to metaverse. And therefore, we're going to see increase in zero-contact transaction. And if we look at the number of customers signing up for mobile banking and so on, the numbers are really astounding. But the thing is, what makes this mobile transaction very difficult is that the information of financial products is limited, so there's a high chance of mis-selling. In the Financial Consumer Protection Act, there are provisions related to customer product fit and explanation of the product itself, but these provisions were created with face-to-face channel in mind. So it's very difficult to implement them through these zero-contact channels, and that's our concern. That's what we're trying to work on. And the elderly population face difficulties in using mobile phones and mobile services. And you do know that the zero-contact transaction actually have lower intermediary fee than face-to-face channels. So while young people can make use of this benefit, the elderly are not able to do so. So financial services are now less accessible for the information poor. The number of offline stores of existing financial companies are decreasing rapidly. An industry officer once told me that significant customers of his bank no longer visit offline stores. The number of customers that visit offline stores are single digit. So this would inevitably lead to so-called digital alienation. because there is less accessibility for the elderly with a decrease in the number of offline stores. Even though they go to these stores, they're going to have to wait for many hours. So this is something that the FSS needs to solve going forward. So creating a, for example, guide to explain mobile financial products is something that is under research at FSS. And with regards to information consent of providing private information, that is done on mobile platform these days as well. But I think we still need to make improvements on that. I need to make sure what is it that I actually agree to. So I think an innovative UI is needed to this end. And this is something that we have to do together with the industry players. So if you access a website, maybe the UI would be more intuitive. And we would also have to raise digital literacy for the information poor, to raise their accessibility to digital finance. And once financial services go into the metaverse world, the user interface is connected via text and what is typed onto the computer, but metaverse's interface actually involves human behavior, like speech-to-text technology is available, and the detection of iris is also possible in the metaverse world. So authentication methods are very diverse and different in the metaverse world, which means that there will be greater accessibility to the information poor. So companies are working to advance the metaverse world to incorporate the financial sector, and FSS will try to ease and review many related regulations to make this possible. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful comment and your opinion.
Now moving on to the next question is about investment. What are the investments-related support policies to create a My Data ecosystem for SMEs? So I think that question is very much focused on the incubation and also the promotion of fintech companies. But as I said, we are an investment company, so I'm going to focus my remarks on investments. So as you may well know, there is no dedicated investment fund to support My Data business. But there is the Fintech Innovation Fund established at the end of 2019. We want to invest intensively in companies that are expected to bring about changes and innovation to the financial industry. So we believe that My Data industry is also an area that will bring innovation, and that is why we plan to actively consider investing in companies in this field. And as for fintech startups, in order to attract investment, we need to better protect personal information, as said earlier on, and we need also differentiated services that meet customers' needs, and also the possibility of commercialization. These are the key factors, we believe. And not only that, incentives are also provided to innovative startups like My Data operators and innovative financial operators. So we actually give management the right to buy back a certain investment stake invested by the Fintech Innovation Fund. We believe that this is a very good incentive. We want to further promote this incentive to develop more innovative companies. Thank you.
자, 이제 어느덧 저희가
Thank you. Now it's time for the last question. We're a bit over time, and I think this is because the panels are showing enthusiasm in answering the questions. Now, this is a question about support. Now, this is a question about, do you have any plans to support the growth of fintech by linking them to local governments. So we do have some programs that are conducted by local governments, such as giving rent support. And within our fintech budget, a part of them are allocated to local fintech companies outside of Seoul to support their rent. So we actually give these fintech companies up to 2 million won to support their rent. And we also have programs run by local governments. For example, Gyeonggi Province, with regards to companies that are under the regulatory sandbox, demonstration costs, liability insurance premiums, and consulting services are provided. And of course, the city of Seoul has a fintech lab in Yeouido, and also Busan, together with Busan Bank, opened up a project called U-Space as a workspace for fintech companies. And we provide rent support, labor support, investment support, and acceleration, and so forth. So these are some of the programs that we do to support fintech companies. And together with the Jeonbuk municipality, as well as other municipalities, the center has been conducting seminars. And the Jeonbuk Creative Economy Innovation Center participated in the 2021 Korea Fintech Week online. So Fintech Center Korea going forward will work together with local governments so as to expand the fintech ecosystem in areas outside of Seoul. We will try to foster the growth of local fintech companies and reinforce related support. Thank you very much. So that was it for the Q&A, and I'm afraid that we have to finish this session here today. Now, we didn't get to ask all the questions, but these were questions that were most frequently asked. Due to time constraint, we would have to end the session here. Today, we addressed questions about policy, supervision, investment, and support. And through the answers that were provided, we were able to realize that the government and related institutions are providing unsparing support to invigorate fintech businesses. And we were also able to realize that the public is very interested in fintech. Thank you very much, our four panelists, and to our audiences both online and offline. Now, we kicked off Korea Fintech Week 2022, and we have more in store for you. Starting at 1 a.m., we have a seminar on the fintech cooperation success cases. Please check out other programs through our official website. And that concludes hearing about Fintech Policy 2022. Thank you for being with us. Once again, my name is Kim Kyung-mi.